We're going to start with the basic omoplata from the closed guard and getting what I call the standard omoplata position. Everybody does their grips a little bit differently, and I want to show you why I use the grips I use from my standard control strategy. We're going to return to these grip concepts over and over throughout the instructional, and so I want us to have a nice solid base for why we do the things we do when we do the entries and when we do the finishing techniques. So if I'm in closed guard and Eric is on top, what I need to do is get his elbow away from his body and flare it, and I need to make his palm face the ceiling. I'm going to get a cross collar grip and a sleeve grip. Now I'm either going to step on his hip or just move my own hips out, trying to get the inside of my knee on the back of his shoulder blade. As I do this, I'm going to punch his shoulder back, or punch his wrist backward. When this happens, my knee comes up to his shoulder and I'm going to pinch down tight. This is really important to stop my partner from posturing up. When I have the cross collar, it also helps a little bit with posture control. Now I'm going to uncoil my body, bring my leg in front of his face, and now I switch my grips. My collar grip comes to his elbow, and my sleeve grip comes to the back of his pants, gripping right on top of his pants. We'll explain what to do no-gi in a moment. Now I'm going to flatten my partner out. I always want to take care of my partner's base before I even try to finish. As you can see, Eric's right now in the turtle position. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step on the mat and move my hips out in a straight line away from his shoulders while I'm stiff arming my pants grip away at about a 45-degree angle. When this happens, I'm able to break Eric's base down. Now, my outside foot is going to pendulum, and I'm going to come up to block his hip. My legs come into an S position. Now to finish, I'm going to try to take my knee to his near side ear as I'm thinking about whispering into his near side ear. What this does is hyper-rotates his shoulder into a shoulder lock. Now this is our ideal omoplata position, where we take care of his base and stops him from being able to defend. We're going to do that one more time from the same angle, and I'm going to explain why I do some of the things that I do. So for this basic setup, again, all I really need to do is flare his elbow out and push his wrist that way. I can do that with the collar grip and the sleeve grip as we just did. No-gi, I would control behind the head and control inside space, where I step out and get the same position. My knee, it's really important that I pinch down. Even if I don't have a collar, if my knee pinches together and Eric tries to posture, it's going to be hard for him. I'm still going to be able to get my legs in front. I transfer to the elbow, then I transfer to the pants. No-gi, my hand would cup down on top of his ankle, just so he can't step over my head. We'll get to that in a second. A lot of people will triangle their legs here. It's not wrong, and it's not right. When we either stomp down or triangle the legs, what I'm trying to do is pin his shoulder toward the mat. If I do that with the triangle, that's fine. If I just stomp down, that's also fine. The purpose of that is to stop him from posturing up. We'll explain some of the benefits and drawbacks of triangling later on. The reason that I do these two grips, the elbow grip and the pants grip, if I lose his elbow, I've lost the omoplata. If his elbow is able to crest my hips and knee line, for example, if he pulls it out, I've lost the submission and I've lost the control position. We're going to return to that concept over and over. So that's why I always like to control his elbow. A lot of times people will control the sleeve, but I feel like that's a little bit less secure than putting a block in. I have to use grip strength to maintain it. And also, this works gi as well as no gi. I control the pants because the three most common counters to the omoplata are for Eric to make posture, or for Eric to roll over his shoulder, and for Eric to step over my head. A combination of these grips stops us from doing all of those things. You will see other variations of grips. A lot of people do belt and pants, and those aren't wrong. There are situations that will use those too. But when I refer to the standard omoplata position, this is what I'm referring to. When I get up, a lot of people, the one thing that I do want to emphasize is a lot of people make what I consider a mistake of trying to sit up right away and block the far hip. The problem with that is if I do that, Eric can often roll. And that's one of the common defenses that we'll learn how to counter. Now we have counters to the roll, but we'd rather prevent than have to deal with the problem. So instead what I do is I maintain my grip on the pants, take my outside foot, pendulum myself up, which allows me to block the hip with my elbow before anything bad happens, right? That's also why I try to flatten him out before I finish. If we're unable to flatten him out, then that's when we do the chop up. But here's why I like to flatten him out. If he's in the turtle, he can make posture or he can roll. We'll explain how to deal with those things later. But to break him down, I'm going to move my hips, like if you can imagine a line that goes between Eric's shoulders and just extends out throughout the room. That's the way I want to put my hips in. If I have the triangle, I'm going to unlock the triangle, move my hips out while I'm pushing the grip in the opposite direction. So when Eric's shoulders and his leg go in the opposite direction, that's when he's flat. Safest thing to do is flatten him, chop and come up, and block the hip. Last detail for now in this standard omoplata position. A lot of people will raise their hips to finish, and it definitely works to hyper-rotate the shoulder. The problem is when I create space, Eric is often able to come back up to the turtle. So come on back up. Now, you can still finish here, and we'll show methods for finishing here before, but this also allows Eric to do certain defenses like maybe he can roll over his shoulder here, maybe he can make posture. I just don't want to deal with any of that. Instead, I'd prefer to finish, go back down, flat please. I would prefer to finish without allowing him access to any of his defenses. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come forward as low to the mat as I can. If I have to finish, if I have to bring my hips up to finish, I will, but I'd rather not allow him access to any of his defenses. So, when I refer to the standard omoplata position, what I'm referring to is I have him caught in the omoplata, and I have my grip on his elbow, and I have my grip on his pants. From there, we're going to work to flatten him out, and finish. You can finish whether he's flat or not, and in the finishing section of the instructional, we'll show you how to do each of those.